A lot of narratives circulate these days. Some are factual, some get stretched beyond recognition, and others drift so far from reality they barely resemble journalism. But recently, one headline made even me pause for a moment. Elon Musk returns to the White House. Now, whether you think that line is symbolic, strategic, or just the latest round of dramatic media storytelling depends entirely on how you interpret the events that came before it. Because once you step back and look at the bigger picture, a pattern starts to emerge. Articles about political tension, whispers about reconciliation, talk of donor networks, and even claims about being pushed out of Washington for digging too close to uncomfortable truths. Suddenly, what seems like a simple invitation to dinner becomes something far more layered. So today, I want to take you through how others have covered these events, what political analysts believe is happening, and why the idea of a so-called return is about more than one evening at the executive mansion. We'll look at what's publicly known, piece together the possibilities, and leave the final interpretation in your hands. It all began with the moment that set off the headlines. Photos surfacing from the White House state dinner, showing Musk shaking hands with the president, both appearing cordial after months of what the press enthusiastically labeled a bitter falling out. The media rushed to frame it with dramatic phrases. Friendship restored. Political harmony rekindled. Musk welcomed back into Trump's orbit. I'm not here to confirm anyone's motives. I'm simply reviewing how it looked from the outside, because every public moment has a backstory, or at least theories that quickly take on lives of their own. And in Washington, theories often become the reality people operate under. The dinner itself was a state event with the Saudi crown prince, packed with high-level guests, formal attire, and symbolism that can't be avoided. Observers instantly commented on the optics. Two billionaires who had spent weeks firing sharp comments at each other online were suddenly laughing and standing shoulder to shoulder. But here's something people overlook. Tensions between Musk and Trump have erupted before, very publicly, and commentators always jump in with their interpretations. Political relationships, especially ones involving personalities as strong as Trump, often swing between confrontation and reunion. As one analyst joked, one day they're throwing punches, the next day they're sharing compliments. It's a rhythm familiar in Washington. Leaders clash over policy, over strategy, over who gets credit. Then circumstances shift, goals realign, and suddenly people who were adversaries yesterday become partners again today. Whether you see that as practicality or just the nature of politics depends on your worldview. The earlier friction that reporters kept referencing centered on disagreements over policy priorities, debates about government spending, and some very public remarks about how efficiently the federal system operates. Questioning how taxpayer dollars move through Washington will rattle people. Doing it loudly on a platform with hundreds of millions of followers rattles them even more. But analysts believe something bigger nudged both sides back toward cooperation. And it wasn't just personal. When the world gets tense, motivations get interpreted in all kinds of ways. Right now, the global stage is unpredictable, financial systems are shaky, borders are under strain, and Americans are deeply concerned about the country's long-term strength. These are not abstract political topics. They affect millions of households directly. Some political observers argue that a shared desire to strengthen the country was what originally connected them. I can't speak to anyone's private intentions, but I can say this. When your focus is on solving massive challenges, whether it's getting humanity to Mars or finding ways to make government processes run more effectively, you naturally cross paths with others who feel that same urgency. The commentary suggests both men, for all their differences, want to see the country thrive. Whether you think that's genuine ambition or clever branding is up to you. But analysts say the real shift happened long before the state dinner. It wasn't Musk who announced anything publicly. Others did. According to several reports, the thaw actually started back in September at Charlie Kirk's memorial service. By October, some outlets were reporting that Trump was privately telling confidants the relationship was back on good terms and that he had always respected Musk. And if you understand how politics works, you know public narratives often matter more than private conversations. Quiet reconciliations give people room to move without the weight of public expectations. When things happen in front of cameras, every gesture becomes a headline. Behind the scenes, there's room for more honest discussion. From there, speculation shifted to finances, as it always does in politics. Whenever money enters the conversation, the volume increases instantly. In this case, outlets like the New York Times published reports claiming that massive donations were made to Republican super PACs, multiple checks in a single day, totaling tens of millions of dollars. This was based on federal filings, according to their reporting. But the story that dominated coverage was that these contributions made Musk one of the biggest individual donors in recent political history, with totals reaching into the hundreds of millions during the last cycle. Whether the figures were perfectly accurate, overstated, or missing context, that's something each person can judge. What's clear is that when a wealthy figure gets involved in politics, the system reacts, both with open arms and intense scrutiny. The reporting claimed that money flowed to Trump's main super PAC, to the Senate Leadership Fund, and to the Congressional Leadership Fund. Essentially, the core funding pillars of the Republican election machine. If those reports are correct, that would make a massive impact on the midterm landscape. But the real story wasn't the money. It was what people assumed the money represented. Media outlets began framing it as the construction of a new digital political engine. And honestly, that assumption isn't surprising. Technology has disrupted every sector it touches. Entertainment, transportation, communication, shopping, news. So naturally, people believe politics is next. According to public reporting, there are efforts underway to build advanced digital advertising systems, data-driven voter outreach models, and grassroots tools powered by platforms like Analyst describe it as bringing Silicon Valley-style innovation to political campaigns. Whether or not Musk is driving any of that, you can decide. But one thing is true. Technology doesn't take sides. Technology simply amplifies whatever message is most efficiently delivered. If you reach the right people at the right time, your message wins. If you don't, you lose. That rule applies whether you're selling rockets or selling ideas. Analysts point out that Republicans have long lagged behind Democrats in digital infrastructure. Democrats spent more than a decade building powerful online fundraising machines and voter databases. But if these reports are accurate, that balance might be shifting. And that leads to a phrase I've seen tossed around frequently by commentators, the tech conservative alignment, sometimes called the tech triad alliance. Strange name, but here's what they mean. They claim there's a growing bond between Silicon Valley innovators and traditional conservative thinkers. At first glance, the two couldn't be more different. Tech leaders push disruption and rapid change. Traditionalists value continuity and preservation. But analysts say they share striking similarities. Both believe the universe is structured, not random. Both think human life has purpose rather than emptiness. Both emphasize productivity, creation, and economic growth. And both groups are deeply concerned about declining birth rates, not just as statistics, but as warnings about the future of civilization. Studies show religious conservatives tend to have much higher birth rates than secular groups. In some states, the disparity is enormous, almost double. Whether this alliance is real or just a catchy narrative, it's become the lens through which people interpret every political move involving tech leaders. They see a new partnership forming between two groups that rarely coordinate, bringing money, innovation, and influence into a coalition that has historically been outmatched.
But not everyone views the story the same way. Which brings us to one of the most dramatic claims floating around. A congressman recently posted a video claiming he was forced out of Washington for getting too close to exposing something the establishment didn't want uncovered. According to his comments, the issue involved how government money moves into nonprofit organizations and then returns to the political system through dark money channels. These were his words, not mine. But it's worth noting what he meant. He described Washington not as a swamp, but as a sewer. Something engineered, not accidental, designed to funnel resources to certain interests while shutting out others. His view was that taxpayer money goes into these groups, those groups use it for political activity, and the results benefit the very people who authorize the funding. A loop, closed, protected, and hostile to anyone who threatens it. He claimed that when his team eliminated hundreds of thousands of federal positions and released plans to overhaul bureaucracy, he got too close to exposing how the system truly functions. Whether his story is accurate or exaggerated is for viewers to decide. But Washington absolutely has its own ecosystem, its own unwritten rules, its own survival instinct. Challenge it directly, and you shouldn't be shocked if it pushes back. The congressman's video struck a chord because it echoed what many people already believe, that parts of the government are more interested in protecting themselves than serving citizens. Whether stepping back was a strategic pivot or simply a return to his private ventures, the narrative took on momentum. And all these threads, the reconciliation, the financial reporting, the digital strategy speculation, the dark money accusations, collided as commentators shifted their attention to the next major political moment. Many believe the upcoming midterms will be the battlefield where all of this plays out. And based on the reporting I've seen, they think Musk's influence could reshape how those races unfold. Historically, midterms favor the party outside the White House. The president's party almost always loses seats, sometimes in large numbers. But analysts now predict this pattern may not apply. They point to several factors: unified messaging, substantial resources, cutting-edge digital targeting,
and a highly motivated base. Reports suggest Republicans may have a stronger advantage than they've had in years, not because of one factor, but because all the elements are aligning at the same time. Money, technology, message discipline, and grassroots enthusiasm. When those come together, political landscapes can shift overnight. But for everyday Americans, for people watching right now, the real question isn't about campaign tactics or fundraising. The real question is, how does any of this affect your life? When analysts discuss Musk's political involvement, they tie it to the topics voters care about most. And right now, those issues are obvious. Inflation continues to squeeze your wallet at the store, at the gas station, and in your monthly bills. Housing prices make it harder for younger generations to buy homes and build stability. The job market is transforming as automation and global competition reshape the future of work. And immigration remains a flashpoint, affecting communities differently depending on local resources. Analysts say these issues will determine whether political alliances thrive or collapse, because voters don't care about donor maps or digital data. They care about whether their situation improves. And that brings us to the biggest question of all. What happens next? I've seen countless predictions, many of them contradicting each other. Some believe this will transform how campaigns operate forever, introducing the kind of innovation Musk brought to electric vehicles and space exploration. Others think the collaboration with Trump will redefine conservative politics for a generation, creating a hybrid of populism and technological ambition. Still others argue Washington will resist harder than ever, and whatever progress is made will be temporary. The truth is, this moment is still developing. No one knows exactly what the next phase will look like because it hasn't unfolded yet. Politics isn't a scripted show. It's millions of individuals making choices that collectively shape history. What I do know is that the stories being told about a dinner, about donations, about digital networks, about dark money systems, reveal more about the country than they do about any one person. Some analysts see opportunity, some see chaos, some warn of risk, others see hope. Ultimately, what comes next won't be determined by a handshake or a headline. Before you go, I genuinely want to hear what you think. What do you make of all these reports? Are analysts overstating the moment or missing the point entirely? Let me know in the comments. And if you want to follow where this story goes next, hit like and subscribe. This conversation is far from over, and your perspective matters in shaping it.